Hi students, today in class we started learning about magical realism, and we began with looking at the 7 major elements that define what magical realism is in both film and literature. This video is going to review the concepts that we went over in class today so that you can be prepared for your quiz tomorrow. So in class, you saw these elements of magical realism that included fantastical elements, real-world setting, authorial reticence, plenitude, hybridity, heightened awareness of mystery, and political critique. Then, watching one of 4 videos, you guys completed your own table explaining how each of these elements appeared in a clip that you watched. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through one of the videos, specifically Wizard of Oz, and I'm going to break down how each of those elements occur in there. This is the same thing that 2 of the groups did in class today, but I want to dig a little deeper and explain it to you step by step so that you understand how the elements occur in video so that later on you can understand how it occurs in writing. Your quiz tomorrow is going to be very similar to this. I'm going to select one of the 4 clips that we viewed yesterday. I'll give you a hint. It's not going to be Wizard of Oz because I'm going over that one now. So one of the other 3 clips will be played in class, and then you will be able to answer questions about how that clip is an example of magical realism. So in addition to viewing this video, other ways that you can study for tomorrow's quiz is by watching the videos that we watched in class today and also reviewing the table that your group mates created, or that your peers also created. All right, now let's get started. So if you would like, go to today's folder and today's Google slide and watch the Wizard of Oz video. I'm not going to play it here because it will take up too much time, but if you want to watch the video, go ahead and do that now. But I'm going to start explaining Wizard of Oz and how it's magical realism. So the first thing that we notice with Wizard of Oz is the real-world setting. At the beginning of the movie, Dorothy is out in the West during the Dust Bowl, and so everything looks very bleak. To emphasize this bleakness, the movie is in black and white at the beginning. So remember that the real-world setting is the existence of fantasy elements in the real world that provides the basis for magical realism. Writers do not invent new worlds, but reveal the magic in this world. So Dorothy lives in the same world that we live in. It's a couple decades ago, but it's the same world that we live in. Then, the fantastical elements are entered into her reality. So her house gets swept up by a tornado, and she wakes up in a different land. Now, with these fantastical elements, they are like fables, folktales, and myths that date back to ancient civilizations. However, magical realism takes the characteristics of fables, folktales, and myths and portray them in otherwise realistic tones, bringing fables, folktales, and myths into contemporary social relevance. Therefore, while we have talking animals and majestic cities and spells casted over people with poppies, these kind of things are what we find in fables, talking animals, folktales, magical spells, myths, magical cities. But this is not in an ancient setting. This is in a contemporary social setting. That way, it is reflecting upon our lives today as opposed to the lives of the past. Therefore, to restate that, magical realism is going to share the characteristics of fables, folktales, and myths, but the settings will be very different, where these are set in ancient times most often, and magical realism is set in a contemporary time period. Now, next, we have authorial reticence, where the narrator and characters are indifferent to the fantastic events. Magical events are presented as ordinary occurrences. Therefore, the reader accepts the marvelous as normal and common. We can see that right here in this scene. Here we have Dorothy wiping the tears of a lion and standing beside a scarecrow and tin man who can talk, walk, and think, and speak. She doesn't freak out about this. She doesn't run away screaming. She doesn't ask a lot of questions. She just accepts it to be true and interacts with them like they're the everyday person. This is authorial reticence. It's the idea that when the odd, fantastical element enters into reality, the characters don't run away screaming, they don't call the government, they don't freak out in any way. They might feel other emotions like curiosity, annoyance, anger, happiness, but they don't feel panic. They do not freak out about the fantastic event that occurs. Next, we have plenitude. There is a layering of elements, or the marvelous, not meaning beautiful and pleasant, but extraordinary, strange, and excellent. Therefore, there will be a high use of imagery and symbolism. So in Wizard of Oz, they go through this episodic journey where multiple things occur that the characters have to overcome. This is a layering of elements where things get stranger and stranger, more excellent, and more extraordinary and more extraordinary. Also, with the imagery, note how in all the scenes there are vivid colors. Also, in your writings, you will read a lot of imagery that appeal to sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. Also, there's symbolism. The Tin Man, the lion, and the scarecrow all symbolize different faults that we might have in our characteristics. For instance, not being very smart, not being very brave, or not being very emotional. They symbolize these problems. Furthermore, the Wizard of Oz himself symbolizes a corrupt government. So we can see in the Wizard of Oz that symbolism is occurring. Next comes hybridity. Hybridity is when magical realism plot lines characteristically employ hybrid multiple planes of reality. For instance, the story may distort time and switch narrative perspectives. We see this in Wizard of Oz with how Dorothy goes from her Midwest home that gets swept up by a tornado and ends up in the Wizard of Oz. There's a huge shift in time and place. We're not sure if Oz is in Dorothy's mind because she hit her head when she got swept up by a tornado, or if she actually gets sucked into a different time and dimension. Regardless, whichever it is, it's still an example of magical realism because it distorts time where Dorothy ends up in a completely different situation than she was before. This also can be seen through switching narrative perspectives as opposed to time, where one character will tell part of the story and another character will tell another part of the story. Now next, we have heightened awareness of mystery. Magic realist literature tends to read at an intensified level. The reader must let go of pre-existing ties to conventional exposition, plot advancement, linear time structure, scientific reason, and so forth, to strive for a state of heightened awareness of life's connectedness or hidden meanings. So in Wizard of Oz, a lot of weird stuff goes down. We have a lion that is very scared of things. We have people frolicking down a yellow brick road. We have a magical fairy. We have a lot of stuff. We have a witch looking into a crystal ball. So there's a lot going on. And the idea is that there is no explanation offered to us as to why all this is occurring. As readers, we just have to accept that it's happening. And we have to accept that our understanding of plot, science, time, reason are all going to be violated. And we have to just roll with it. So the reason why magical realism violates all of these norms that we're used to seeing in stories is to make us think harder. So if you get confused, then magical realism is working because it's trying to heighten your awareness of life's connectedness or hidden meanings. Next comes the political critique, which is the last of the 7 elements. So magical realism contains an implicit criticism of society, particularly the elite. The writing often supports the geographically, socially, and economically marginalized. Therefore, magic realism writings are subversive texts revolutionary against social dominant forces. So the idea is that those who are weaker based upon their geographic location, their social status, or their economic status, those people who tend to be marginalized are oftentimes shown as the heroes within the story. So in Wizard of Oz, Oz himself, the scary floating head with flames around him, he symbolizes a corrupt government that controls his people by taking away their rights to live. Therefore, Wizard of Oz is revolting against that kind of government. Throughout all of magical realism, you will consistently see the concept of the elite as being portrayed negatively, where they use their power to hurt other people. So, these are the 7 elements of magical realism as they apply to the Wizard of Oz. If you need to watch this video one more time, I would suggest doing that. Otherwise, if you would like to study further in a different way, again, go watch Wizard of Oz, well, not Wizard of Oz, we already went through that. Go watch Life of Pi, Big Fish, and Pan's Labyrinth, and consider how the 7 elements apply to those 3 videos. If you have trouble figuring out how the 7 elements apply, go and read these tables that your peers created. In these tables, they talked about each element and how they're found in the video. By doing this, this will help you prepare for the quiz that will ask you to analyze one of these 3 videos based upon their use of the 7 elements. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow for your quiz. Bye.